Here.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
And here we go again. This is Mike Lodge. I am the business advisor. Gosh, it's a Saturday morning and it's a beautiful morning, but it's about 40 degrees here. Yeah, it's 40 degrees Fahrenheit here in South Carolina. And it is a cold morning. Got up to walk the dog and it was chilly. But that's life. Life during this winter springtime, right? Just a few more days and it's spring. I can hardly wait. Listen, in this time that we're living at the moment with a really bad economy, we find that there's a lot of stress that mounts. And there's a lot of frustration. And this financial stress plays havoc on relationships, especially when you are married or if you're living together. It plays havoc because somebody might have lost their job, another person might have had their hours cut, you might have some assets that are now upside down. So this could be a whole bunch of different scenarios here, but these things play a stressful part on the marriage and on the relationship. And so we begin to start hearing about, I think we should separate. And I have a lot of clients that come to me, and I seem to be getting more calls that say, we're in the process of separation and we need your help. And I hate to see it happen. I'll tell you an interesting thing that happened a few years back. We had a really downturn in the real estate market. My clients got a large tax. I had a large tax office in Los Angeles. And one year, everything was going great. I mean, people were buying houses and they were overpaying on these houses. Kind of a scenario of what's going on now. But they had overpaid on these houses. But it was a boom. And people were trying to get as many houses as they could, and they were getting loans. And they could do these lie loans. In other words, you qualified without having any documentation. So they went out and they bought all these homes. The next year, the market went south. People had upside down loans, meaning that their mortgage was more than the value of their home. And it was very difficult to rent. People were walking away from their rental agreements because it was just too expensive. And they could not refinance their house because it was an upside-down loan. The value wasn't there to support a new loan. There was a lot of stress, so people were losing their houses. They were going into foreclosure. They were having to work out deals with the bank to sell off early. So it was just pounding on these people's lives. They had overextended themselves. The next year, I had clients coming in, separating in divorce. They could not take the pressure anymore. Things happened in the marriage. Things were said. Sometimes even things were thrown. But people decided it's time to get a divorce. But they would still come to me as a joint couple because they trusted me and they wanted me to work on their finances. But we see this happening when things go south or tough or financial stress. We see disruptions in relationships. And so they want to separate. And the most important thing that you do when you separate is to sit down with a mediator like myself and put together a separation agreement and a parenting agreement if you have children. That sets the rules of how you're going to deal with each other during this separation, during your time which I suggest you go to counseling, and then you decide to finally go through a divorce. But you got that separation agreement, the parenting agreement there that says, okay, this is how we're going to act like adults during this separation time. Because as you know, emotions go wild. and people begin to start, well, not acting very civilly, right? And those of you who are listening to me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You may have gone through it yourself. But let me tell you, separation can be done nicely. So I want to go over some of the rules. And the number one rule of a separation, as you're sitting down with a mediator and talking about putting a separation agreement and co-parenting agreement together, there's some rules that you need to think about. The number one, and you're probably not going to like this, but you have to treat your co-parent as you would treat a business partner. I've done a lot of business partner separations too. Well, as we're dissolving the company, when we're dissolving the relationship, there's mediation that has to be done through business partners. It's not all that different than dissolving or separating in a relationship. So let's go over some of the rules as you treat this individual as a business partner. Because you still have houses, you still have cars, you still have assets, you still have bank accounts and everything else. So you're still connected during this separation. Be courteous. You don't need to be the asshole to go around acting like an idiot. Be courteous always. Be a man, be a woman. Come on, be courteous. You don't need to drag in everything in every single time that you are going to deal with that other individual. Be courteous. Answer emails and text messages and phone calls in a civil manner. Look at the text message. When you send a text message or an email, identify the issue only that you need to talk about. Don't go off into a long tangent, a long dissertation. Identify what you need to talk about, ask it, and when you answer only the issue. Okay? Don't badmouth your co-parent. If you have a co-parent, don't badmouth them, especially not on social media. That's stupid. That can be used as evidence. And especially if you have children, don't badmouth the co-parent in front of the child. Don't use them as your communication device to the other child. That child needs consistency from both of you. And they still need to know that you love them. And when you involve them into your squabbles, you're just creating chaos for that child. Do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to pick up Johnny at 10 a.m. in the morning, be there 10 minutes before 10 a.m. Do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to pay that payment, you pay that payment. Do what you say you're going to do. Communicate important information. If you've got some information that needs to be talked about quickly, communicate it quickly. Professionally. Provide requested documentation in a timely manner. Do not treat the other person as the enemy. If you start doing that, you're going to create chaos. And remember, those children that you are responsible for as co-parents don't need to see stupid chaos between parents. You're the adults. Act like adults. Model desirable conduct. In other words, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Treat others as you want to be treated. Be nice. I know there's a lot of emotion going around and you want to fight, but it's not worth it. Focus on your conduct. Demonstrate that you can be trusted and that you do not want to participate in a race to the bottom in terms of your behavior. Think about how you're behaving. Think about how you want in the future for this relationship to go. Because you're still going to have to co-parent. You're still going to have to deal on different assets that you need to talk about or dissolve or sell or move into, whatever that case may be. Focus on how your anger is and put it to the side because you need to resolve these issues. Emotions is one of the biggest things you're going to have to deal with. Although it can be tempting in the moment of disagreement to let your anger flow, it's better in the long term for your family if you take a deep, deep breath. A deep breath. And maintain your patience. The biggest issue you're going to deal with this in this separation is your emotions. The other issue is that a lot of things happen in this thing. We're going to talk about it in other podcasts as we go along on this separation thing. Because all of a sudden you're wanting to make changes. You're wanting to go out there and find a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Or you may even have one at the moment. That might be the issue. We're going to have to talk about those issues. Because once you bring somebody else in, now you're bringing in more baggage into that co-parenting relationship or that separation relationship that you're going through. You're going to have assets and bills, and you're going to have financial issues that you're going to have to work through. You have to set yourself a budget. And that's what the mediator does. He sits down with both of you and say, okay, what is going to happen with your finances? What's going to happen with these bills? Who's going to be responsible for them? What's going to happen to the house? What's going to happen to the furniture? What's going to happen to all this? All of these things need to be discussed, and you guys are going to come into a situation with emotional anger, and you're going to have to put it to the side. Because now you got to start talking like adults. I tell you, separation is a difficult thing, but it can be done. And we can work through this situation and make it so that you've got the rules set and you're ready to go. You know what each other's responsibility is. Listen, even in business, when you see a business separating and the partners dissolving their relationships, a lot of times it's because they didn't know what both of their responsibilities were in the business. I've seen it happen so many different times. So, as we talk about separation, remember, in your personal finances, this separation agreement is key so that you understand where you stand, what your responsibilities are, how you're going to communicate with each other during this process. In my separation agreements, I sit down with both sides and say, okay, we need to focus on communication because communication can go crazy at a drop of a hat, a drop of an emotional hat. Communication is the key here. And we go through this whole communication process during separation. It's very important. I know that you're going through financial times, hard times. I'm going through them too. Luckily, I have no one to separate with. I have no one to blame except myself because I'm single. So, you and the other individual, if you are really determined to separate, do it in a nice way. Do it through a separation agreement. Do it through a co-parenting agreement. It makes things so much easier. Listen, if you would like to have more access to me, go to www.lodge.co.com. If you have a question, you can send it to thebusinessadvisor@gmail.com. And if you would like to support this podcast and all my blogs, go to buymeacoffee.com/Michael Lodge. Everybody go out and have a great Saturday. Love you guys. Bye-bye.